Business and Finance Noon program today invites you to review the morning session developments of the stock market. At first glance, it seemed the domestic stock market's rising streak would continue this morning, as the main index at one point rose by about 11 points right after opening. However, pressure at the high levels dragged the VN index down significantly. A ticker that had been standing outside the market's recent upward momentum, MWG, unexpectedly gained when the broader market was adjusting. Meanwhile, some stocks that had surged recently, such as VIX and EVF, hit the floor price during this morning session. This morning, the Vingroup duo VIC and VHM served as the backbone of the market, as both contributed a combined pull of more than 3 points to the main index. This partially offset the relatively broad corrections among other blue-chip banking stocks, such as VCB, ACB, and MBB. VIB was a rare name to hit its ceiling by the end of the morning session. Foreign investors continued their net selling streak with a recorded value of about 780 billion VND. VNDCI was among the tickers most heavily sold by foreign investors. By the end of the morning, the VN index fell nearly 21 points, closing at 1,633.22 points, with a trading value of over 42.8 trillion VND. In Hanoi, the index also dropped more than 8 points to 278.15 points, with a trading value of about 3.14 trillion VND. Elsewhere in Asia, many markets also extended their declines as investors monitored weak economic data. Japan's Nikkei 225 led the drop, falling more than 1.5% during morning trade following disappointing July trade figures. South Korea's market also slid by about 1.5%, while Shanghai and Hong Kong markets in China edged lower after the People's Bank of China, PBOC, announced it would keep its loan prime rate, LPR, unchanged. Tech stocks across the region lost ground, with Japan's giant SoftBank plunging more than 9%. Japan, the world's fourth largest economy, just received unexpected and negative data. Exports in July dropped 2.6% year-on-year, the steepest fall since 2021, and worse than Reuters' earlier forecast of 2.1%. By market, Japan's exports to the US fell more than 10% and to China by about 3.5%. Imports also continued to decline last month. This trade data comes after Japan's Q2 GDP showed solid growth thanks to a strong trade surplus. Still, experts warn of risks ahead after Japanese goods became subject to a 15% retaliatory tariff from the US. The U.S. Commerce Department recently added 407 products to the list of items facing a 50% import tariff on aluminum and steel content, covering goods such as wind turbines, train cars, motorcycles, and furniture. These imports amount to about $200 billion annually, with effective tariffs expected to rise by about 1 percentage point due to this new measure. U.S. and global companies, especially automakers like Tesla, had lobbied against this, fearing higher costs and supply shortages. In the first half of this year, EU countries continued to import nearly 4.5 billion euros worth of Russian liquefied natural gas, LNG, a sharp increase from last year. The EU has not yet sanctioned Russian gas, unlike oil and coal, due to dependence on Russian supply. Russia's market share in Europe's imported gas was about 19% last year. The EU plans to end this reliance, possibly starting next year. The US is now Europe's largest LNG supplier, with nearly 10.4 billion euros in sales in the first 6 months. A new draft decree from the State Bank of Vietnam states that collateral assets can only be seized if they are not the sole residence or the borrower's main working tool. This measure aims to protect borrowers' minimum living conditions and livelihood. Borrowers must self-declare whether pledged assets are exempt, supported by documents at contract signing. Without such documents, the asset will be considered non-exempt. Recently, 22 social housing projects were launched nationwide to celebrate National Day. In Ho Chi Minh City, 2 projects include the social housing at No. 4 Phan Chu Trinh, Binh Thang Ward, and HUD Tuduk Social Housing. In Hanoi, there is HUD Main Center. Other projects are in provinces like Da Nang, Can Hoa, Lao Cai, Thanh Nguyen, Quang Ninh, Quang Tri, Ninh Binh, and Cà Mau. According to the Ministry of Construction, in the first 7 months, completed, launched, or approved social housing projects reached 69.6% of the target under the 1 million unit program. To meet higher travel demand during the 80th anniversary of the August Revolution and National Day, Hanoi Metro's Cat Linh Ha Dang and Line 3 Nhân Hanoi Station will extend operations until midnight. From August 21st to 24th and September 1st, trains will run from 5:30 a.m. to 12 p.m., 2 hours longer than usual. On National Day, trains will operate continuously from midnight to 10 p.m., except for a brief suspension from 3:10 a.m. to 4:35 a.m. for technical checks. Passengers are advised to plan ahead and follow official updates. Across the nation, the festive spirit for the 80th anniversary is spreading, from newly launched construction projects to decorated tourist sites and traditional craft villages. In Hanoi's Chung Village, artisans are rushing to complete special conical hats for National Day. More than 10,000 hats have been ordered, requiring long hours of dedicated labor. Meanwhile, in Tuvan Village, flag-making workshops have been running day and night to meet demand for millions of Red Star flags. These products, from hats to flags, are not only symbols of national pride, but also exported online to showcase Vietnamese craftsmanship abroad. Turning to agriculture, African swine fever has reemerged, causing live pig prices to fall nationwide, now between 55,000 and 63,000 VND per kilogram, compared to 80,000 VND per kilogram in April, the highest in 2 years. Consumers' fears have hurt demand, impacting farmers and traders alike. Vietnam's fruit exports to the EU reached over $230 million in the first half of the year, up 44% year-on-year, despite total agricultural exports falling 7%. Major importers include the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, and Spain, with growth ranging from 24% to 131%. Key products include passion fruit, mango, pistachios, pineapples, and coconuts. Seafood exports, however, remain under the EU's yellow card warning, which affects both branding and sales. After nearly 8 years of effort, violations by Vietnamese fishing boats have dropped significantly and awareness has improved. Still, with dwindling marine resources, transitioning fishermen to alternate livelihoods is urgent. In the Mekong Delta, many have shifted from fishing to aquaculture, with technology-driven shrimp and fish farming bringing stable incomes. Local governments like Kamau are expanding livelihood diversification and rezoning fishing areas to balance conservation and economic needs. Artificial intelligence tools are seeing massive adoption in South Korea. According to the Bank of Korea, 51.8% of workers there now use generative AI at work, nearly double the rate in the US, averaging 5 to 7 hours weekly. This has reduced working hours by 3.8% and contributed about 1 point to South Korea's 3.9% GDP growth last quarter. Mobile phones are becoming AI hubs, while companies and workers upgrade devices and subscribe to integrated AI services from carriers like SK Telecom and KT. South Korea is emerging as Asia's AI consumer laboratory. In China, digital consumption is booming. In the first 7 months of the year, spending on digital products rose sharply thanks to 5G and AI infrastructure. Smart elder care services and devices grew by over 30%, while July's drone production surged 80.8% year-on-year. Meanwhile, China's leading robotics firm, AGBot, has launched its full humanoid robot product line on the e-commerce platform Ready.com. These include humanoid and quadruped robots, signaling the start of humanoid robot commercialization. Other firms like Square Boot and UB Tech are also rolling out industrial humanoid robots, with thousands of orders already placed. The sector faces challenges including fragmented technologies and lack of safety standards, but competition is heating up, with China's robotics market forecast to grow 23% annually, reaching $108 billion by 2028. And with that, today's Business and Finance Noon program concludes. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you again.